I want to start off this evening by wishing my friend Chloe a happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
She just had a happy birthday. She came over and we had my Old Faithful spaghetti and meatballs.
It was very good.
Had great conversation. And one of the highlights of the evening is that Chloe got to call Irma Muniz. Is that right?
Yes.
That's Ramsey Muniz's wife, and she kind of filled us in on some of the things that are happening, and things are happening very rapidly. Is that right?
Very rapidly. We're having some positive changes, and for that very reason we also need more support.
Okay.
And we need to change it a little bit. Instead of the emails, we need to actually write the letters and fax.
I know last time you were here, we were talking about how the warden, Beaumont, was putting in a request for Ramsey's transfer.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Transferring him from Beaumont to Three Rivers, which is close to Corpus Christi?
Yes. And that warden, his name is C.V. Rivera, and Ramsey Muniz has a very good rapport with him, as he does with everybody there at that unit. So if we could get everyone to please write to Mr. C.V. Rivera, he's a warden at FCC Beaumont Medium, P.O. Box 26045, Beaumont, Texas 77720. And we'd appreciate, the letters to him.
I know that upon one of your visits that you brought a letter. Was it signed by the judge? Is that right? In which Ramsey was supposed to be going to Three Rivers.
Yes. And
that never happened, is that right?
That never happened, and that's 20 years ago. Our government voided that. It's like it never even existed. That was a legal document, for Ramsey to be placed in Three Rivers, and instead they put him all over, the country, and that's 20 years later. And this suffering, it has to come to an end. This is a good innocent man que nosotros que nunca nos olvidemos de Ramsey, porque él nos ayudó mucho y con su trabajo él hizo los cambios para la futura que tenemos ahora, y la gente que son bienvenidos inmigrantes de México que no conocen la historia de Ramiro Ramsey Muniz. Ahora yo les pregunto que por favor nos ayuden con esta causa. Él es un hombre inocente y él era abogado y le ayudaba a mucha gente de México. So, por favor que nos ayuden esta noche a sacarlo, porque él está sufriendo mucho. Ya está viejito mi hermano y él es inocente. Él nos ha querido mucho nuestra gente, nuestra raza, por favor. Él se llama Ramiro Ramsey Muniz y es prisionero político de América, porque en los días de antes estaban las cosas tan horribles, hay mucho racismo y pobreza, y él fue con mucho valor y corrió por gobernador, y eso no era popular en los días de antes, porque todo era corrido más de los bolíos. So, por favor, y si me miran esta noche, que por favor que nos ayuden a sacar a Ramsey Muniz. Pueden hasta hablar a Washington, D.C., a President Obama. Es 202-456-1111. Por favor, háblenle a Washington, D.C., 202-456-1111, y digan que por favor la liberación para Ramsey Muniz.
Okay. If there is the mailing address there, and what we're basically, we've gotten to a point that Mr. Ramiro, Mr. Muniz has gotten the ear of President Obama, and through the warden, I understand they're processing the papers in which they will hopefully transfer him. And then on the second part is the commutation.
Yes, ultimately we need that commutation that will set him free.
So what Irma was telling us is that we need individuals, especially people out there listening today, to write a letter on behalf of Ramsey Muniz, because that letter will show support. And she says it was very important at this time to show they're trying Irma and the National Committee for Free Ramsey and FreeRamsey.com, they're all trying to get President Obama's ear and attention on this matter, and that if at the same time, if we could have the public writing letters on his behalf, yes, and just basically saying, you know, Ramsey's 70 years old, he's been incarcerated for 20 years unjustly, and that you're in support of the commutation for Ramsey Muniz. And as I understand, this is immediate letters of support that are requested by Irma and Ramsey Muniz himself, and the letters are addressed to President Obama. And as you can see, the supportramsey.blogspot.com that's on the view there, you go to that website, and there are some samples of letters, mm-hmm, in which you can use in order to do your letter. And then there's also letters from Dr. Emilia Zamora, some other individuals that have been in the campaign of trying to get Ramsey freed from prison. And you spoke a little bit about the prison. The prison that he's in now is, of course, in Beaumont. They want to transfer him to Three Rivers. But what's really, and I think the last time that you came to speak to us, you talked about lockdowns and that there's gangs in this prison, and that it's just basically not where he needs to be. And so two things are going on here: to get him transferred to Three Rivers, and of course letters of support are greatly needed and appreciated in order that now Ramsey and his committee do have the ear of President Obama, and the warden is in the process of doing the transfer and hopefully going all the way to helping free Ramsey. I think we also have, see, the letters are addressed to President Obama's, and they're asking not to email the letters, but to fax them. Sky, yeah, there's the,
yes,
you address the, yes, letters to Ronald Rogers, Pardon Attorney, Office of the Pardon Attorney, Department of Justice, 1425 New York Avenue, New York, Suite 11,000, Washington, D.C., 20530. And you can fax a letter to Pardon Attorney, fax number 202-616-6069. And I think that's what the best way in which the communication can go directly towards Obama. Of course, you can also telegraph or send a telegram, but that's a little more expensive.
It is.
But they're requesting that faxes be sent to that number, and it's the commutation of intent for Ramiro Ramsey Muniz, and that's 402-88-115. You can see up on the top there. You put that number there because, as you all know, they have
yes,
numbers.
I meant to correct that, y'all. It's 402-88-115, and that says 40888, and it's actually
402-88-115.
Yes. And so, you know, Keith was right about that, and I forgot that was, and now I realize that's what he was saying. Now, Mr. Ronald Rogers historically is known for being a very compassionate attorney. So we believe with the kind of man that he is, that he will definitely help us to free Ramsey. And we hope that by this time they have reviewed, you know, every document to prove of his innocence. So that is Ronald Rogers, Pardon Attorney, and I'm not looking at that. It, okay. You know, you have that.
Office of the Pardon
right.
Attorney, Department of Justice, 1425 New York Avenue, New York, Suite 11,000, Washington, D.C., 20530. And I think the most important thing about this is the Pardon Attorney's fax number, 202-616-6069. And that will get just a simple letter, you know. Sign your name, your company if you want to, where you're from, Austin, Texas. And it's just basically a support that Ramsey definitely needs to help in his cause of getting him transferred from Beaumont to Three Rivers, and to also commutation for Ramsey Muniz. Go ahead.
I want to tell the public, too, that this particular prison stays on lockdown, and it is a most horrible thing because, well, for one thing, Ramsey's innocent, and it is a unit for gang-related inmates, and Ramsey is not a gangster, has never been in any kind of gang. So, you know, there's like continuing violations, and I implore you, please, everyone, to do it now, please. 20 years, that's enough, and Ramsey needs to come out, and he's ready to help us also. But when they're in lockdown, he doesn't eat because he only eats out of the vending machines. And previously he was at a facility where he was poisoned, and we almost lost him. So from then on, he began to eat.
Okay. Okay, yeah, she's very emotional. And I just want to make note, if you go to supportramsey.blogspot.com, you can get information and samples of a lot of letters that have been written on Ramsey's behalf. And one of the letters that struck my eye, and I kept reading and reading, is by Dr. Emilio Zamora, and he's heading the National Committee to Free Ramsey Muniz. And his number is 512-739-1068, 739-0168, and he's with the University of Texas. And his letter was in great detail of the 3 strikes against Ramsey, and that's why they did not give him any parole for his sentence. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And he also brought to note some of the injustices that were happened there, because I believe it was the prosecutor and the attorney were saying, well, we're not going to count this as 2, it's going to be counted as 1, but it went before the judge, and the judge said, no, it's 3. So there's a lot of irregularities, and there's a lot of discrepancies there, and all those they've been there for 20 years now, and it just needs to come, justice needs to happen. And this is basically a campaign for freedom, justice, and love for our dear brother Ramsey Muniz. I'd like to also invite you to go to freeramsey.com, and you can get a lot of information there about Ramsey and his case, and just information. And then, of course, you can go to YouTube, just punch in Ramsey Muniz, and you can get numerous videos. There's some put on by students for Ramsey. They did an in-depth study about exactly what happened to Ramsey and the fate of Ramsey and how he really got to where he is now. And then there's also some other videos, and then of course there's some videos in which you have come onto the show and we talked in detail about the situation. I know right now Chloe's a little emotional, and I don't blame her, because this is something that's been long overdue. And I think the other day when we spoke to Irma, and Irma's basically relaying from Ramsey that, you know, he kind of sees the light at the end of the tunnel, but he needs us. He needs the outside community to pinch for him, and to even write a letter, you know, free Ramsey, you know, I support the idea. That's a picture there of the Friends of Ramsey Muniz. And so it's just an ongoing struggle that unfortunately is happening. It's happening to our brother Ramsey. So this is a time in which we can do something. His wife, Irma Munoz, you can email her at imuniz1310@earthlink.net, imuniz1310@earthlink.net, and her number is 409-363-1878, 363-1878. And I know she's come to Austin a couple of times. She was here for the La Raza Unida reunion, in which Ramsey started the La Raza Unida, right?
Yes.
Back in the 70s? Early
Yes,
70s?
yes.
And he also ran for governor.
Twice.
Twice. So as Chloe mentioned a little earlier in Spanish, a lot of us out here in the community feel like he's a political prisoner.
He is a political prisoner.
He's not a threat. I mean, the political system now is just so strong, Democrat, Republican. And I think that I read one of the letters on Blogspot. He was talking about to Barack Obama that, of course, he hoped Barack Obama would win his re-election, which he did, and the importance of the Latino vote, you know. And so I think, again, I invite you to go to the Blogspot and read some of those letters, because it gets you, people who wrote those letters know Ramsey and what he's about and what he was like when he was with him in Corpus, you know. I know the letters by Dr. Zamora talked about how he had high honors and how he's just came from very humble beginnings, you know, and
Yes.
and worked at a bowling alley, setting up the pins in order to make money for his mother, and did a newspaper route before school, and went on to the university and became high honors and got a football scholarship.
In the old days, it didn't matter what gender we were. We picked cotton with our families. And it was Ramsey that saw our poverty, and it was him that said, I'm going to change this. And I remember those words, Peggy, and I've never forgotten them. And he had the courage to run for office at a time when it wasn't acceptable here in Texas. And I think it's only fair to say that racism was a lot worse than it is today. And that courage, also him helping, you know, people from Mexico, is what really incarcerated him, you know, because we still have problems with that, with racism, you know. But I just know that with the public's help, that the more that we keep, but let's not drag this out much longer, because this is an innocent man that's 70 years old, and he barely walks, and he needs to come out. And if you don't know his heart, when he comes out, we'll all have a chance to know him. And he, for what he has endured, he remains with this spirituality, con la nuestra fe, that he doesn't give up. And so many of us know that kind of faith and love. You know, I was here the last year pleading before the public too, around Easter, and now here we are again, and I appreciate you so much, and I just know that this is going to sink in, and justice is going to come about. And you know, here in our Travis County and in the surrounding counties, we've seen some people that, you know, have unjustifiably been imprisoned and have come out. You know, the Morton case. Just lately, that's one of them, okay? And so that's what I'm talking about. We're talking about a beautiful Mexican-American, brilliant man, very loving man, a grandfather that needs us now more than ever. And in the meantime, people can write to him, you know, so they can write to him at Beaumont at FCC Beaumont Medium, P.O. Box 26045, Beaumont, Texas 77720, and it's Ramiro Ramsey Muniz, 40288-115, and you can send him pictures also, and he will write you back, and so do that, please. And then 202-456-1111 is Barack's commentary line, President Obama's commentary line.
But what they're really needing right now is for us to sit down, write a letter in support of Ramsey, immediate letter support of Ramsey, and that to fax that letter to 202-616-6069, 202-616-6069, and that will get directly to Ronald Rogers, the pardon attorney, and then that will get to Barack Obama. And I know Irma also has a letter of requesting an audience with Barack Obama, but that hasn't been given to her yet. And so that's one thing we can do, is write a letter on his support, and then of course pray. We have to pray that he will be transferred over to Three Rivers and to be there with his family. He's 70 years old. He was an attorney in Corpus Christi and did a lot of pro bono work for some of the people in the community. Okay, well, Chloe, we're going to go ahead and close here. Would you like to to say one more thing
Yes,
for us?
yes. I should have done this sooner. I'm sorry, I wasn't even looking. But I wrote a poem for him, and it's a short poem, and it was written 3 years ago at 1:37 a.m., October the 13th, 2009. My red skin touches the turquoise sky, and the orange sun glows until the yellow moon smiles at me to wish me a good night. The white clouds embrace all the inhabitants of brown and black and white to expose the San Nuestra Tierra. This hemisphere with its shades of green and blue waters and foliage and abundances. The holy ones speak from their hearts and soul and feel the sadness bringing forth shadows of darkness. To stop the inhumanities, the wicked must stop now. To rotate is to live. We are better than to merely survive. This is written for Ramsey, from me, 3 years ago, and he wrote back and he said, I love this beautiful poetry. The most passage for me is the white clouds embrace all the inhabitants of brown and black and white to expose the San Nuestra Tierra, this hemisphere with its shades of green and blue waters and foliage and abundances. This is such poetic communication pertaining to our want for inclusion. Thank you for this beautiful poetic expression that comes from your educational experiences and most importantly, from your heart.
Thank you very much, Chloe. So again, I invite the audience to go to supportramsey.blogspot.com. You can get samples of letters that are on the website there. You can get letters written by Ramsey. You can get letters of support for Ramsey. You can get letters like from Dr. Zamora, who heads the National Committee to Free Ramsey. And this is a crucial development and a crucial moment in the idea of freeing Ramsey and giving justice and love for Ramsey.
And it's so important for people to know, of all different races too, that Ramsey marched with Coretta Scott King. Ramsey, yes, our families marched with Cesar Chavez. You know, our families have been there for all the races, you know, in the world. So it isn't just a Mexican-American thing, but this is a Mexican-American political prisoner that has, you know, been locked up for the work that he did for humanity.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much,
Thank
Chloe.
you.
We'll see you again.
Muchas gracias.
And
gracias.
keep Ramsey in your